a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phone. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.CFRN.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.CFRN.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, 28th day of May, 2020. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, well, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you can't see the screen I have up, go to our home page at CFRN.net. And if you do this, you only have to do it once. On the right-hand side of that home page, you'll find a great big microphone. Click it, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds. And that'll give you one-click access to the show every day. What happens is, about a half hour before the show, an email shows up in your inbox. It says the show starts at noon. When you're ready to join, click here. And so, at the top of the hour, you click that link and you're in like flood. Now, there are other options. If you're away from the office, away from the desktop, you can point any internet-connected browser to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or go to CFRN.net/live. There you'll find a live, real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. Okay? All right. Let's open with a word of prayer. Father, we just thank you for all of your blessings, for your mercy, for your grace in our lives, as our company, as our country awakens from its slumber, as businesses start to reopen, people go to find out if their job is still there. Lord, we thank you for this dark time that you've seen us through. And Lord, as we move into this new normal, that we don't really know what it's going to look like. We just pray that you be there with us every step of the way. And today, God, in prayer, I want to confess your word over the finances of every person that's tuned into this show, whether they're listening live now or if they listen to it 5 years from today on a podcast. I'm saying it with my mouth. I'm believing it in my heart, knowing that your word does not return void, but that your word, God, accomplishes everything it says it will do. I believe Philippians 4:19, that every need is met. Believe that because we are faithful in our finances in building your kingdom, that you, the author of life, send gifts given to me with good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, so that it just pours out and others can come and stand and feel your goodness, experience your mercy and your grace. I know, God, that however I measure it out, that's how it's going to be measured back to me. Help me to always stay mindful of that. You have delivered me out of the authority of darkness into your kingdom. I take my place as your child. I thank you that you've assumed your place as my father and have made your home with me. I know that even as I speak, you're taking care of me. And even now, you are enabling me to walk in love and in wisdom and in the fullness of fellowship with your Son, whose name we pray, the name of Jesus. Amen. Welcome to the Thursday show. It's 9/11 Pacific time. I just want to remind everyone that in the mornings, on the days that I'm able to come in, before Michael starts the official training room at 9:30, if I show up at 8:30, that's 5:30 Pacific time. I'm not trying to make you feel bad or anything. I just want you to know that if I'm not always my, chipper self, it's 5:30, okay? So, as a younger man, 5:30 a.m., we were just shifting into second gear. The party had just started. But, now as a man of a certain age, well, things are a little different. But you probably understand that. Okay, why don't we take a look at a chart? S&P 500, Emini Futures. We'll go to the daily chart. We know we had a bearish cross back on February 26th, 27th. The price of that bearish cross was 32.72. At the time when that happened, when we got the bearish cross, we didn't know this was coming, right? But let's think about what we did know. We know that on the daily chart, and the larger the time frame, the more authoritative it is. Okay? This candle closed below the BBC 2 days before we got the bearish cross. This close below the BBC tells me to anticipate lower prices. The bearish cross confirms it or seals the deal, if you will. Now, as long as we stay below the BBC, what do we expect? Lower prices. As long as we have red and falling, as opposed to blue and climbing, which we'll get to in a moment, as long as we have red and falling, what do we expect? Lower prices. And when the cycle is below the 50-yard line on the slingshot, what does that tell us to expect? Lower prices. So, 3 critical things that tell us to look for lower prices. Now there's a 4th. Take a look right here. See how price is below the BBC, below red and falling, below the step line. There is one little spot right here. Okay, we closed positive above the step line, right? But the step line hadn't fully crossed red and falling. So if there was ever a day to think that maybe this won't be oh so bad, this might have been that day of great hope. But the following session, we closed back below the step line. Okay. Now, I already talked about being below the BBC. I already talked about red and falling. I already talked about the cycle and the slingshot. But with this close right here on March 5th, we stay all those other things, plus we stay below the step line. We don't have a single day that closes above the step line until this day, right here. Now this candlestick signal, that should have gotten your attention. And if you go to a browser and you type in the secret life of candles, did you know they had a secret life? The first result that comes back should be this one. You can go in and you can download this PDF for free. Okay. Learning to read candlesticks is an important part of trading. It's not mumbo jumbo, it's not witchcraft, it's not voodoo. And it's been around about 400 years, I think it is. It was the idea, the concept was created by Japanese rice traders. So this isn't the latest thing to just, come down the pike. This isn't the new and shiny object in the room. It might be new and shiny to you, but to the world it's not. There are, I think officially, whatever that means, 200 different candlestick signals. But some of them are so obscure you might see them just a couple times in your whole trading career. But there are 10 very important candlestick signals that show up quite a bit. You'll see them almost daily. So you download the PDF, you isolate the. Now when I say there's 10 signals, then why does the PDF have 22 pages? That's a great question. Let me just show you. See, a doji is one formation of a candlestick, and a candlestick is this. It's a graphical representation of investor or trader sentiment for the time frame being observed, whether it's daily or 1 minute or 5 minute. So that's just a doji star. Then you have the long-legged doji. Then you have the gravestone doji. And so there's a few variations. But if you can get those 10 basic, when you see this, you don't even have, you'll reach a point where you don't even go through any kind of a thought process. You just know after this huge sell-off, even though price got beaten back down, okay? The fact that we travel that far over the course of a day to close at exactly the same price we opened. Okay. In this context, that's bullish. Now, we want to see more, of course, and we got more. Price closed above the step line, took us to the BBC where we expect resistance, which we got. Resistance will always send you to support. Support will send you back to resistance. Resistance will send you back to support. And when price approaches blue and climbing from above, we expect to find support. We find it more often than we don't. Okay. Now, here was a big day. April 6th, we closed above the BBC. And we traveled up to the area that we had already highlighted as resistance, not because we know magic or have secrets, but because we can look left on a chart. Okay? What was support, obviously on these 3 days, price came, roaring down. The next day it roared back up and it roared back down, right? 3 days, that was good support. So we expect it to be good resistance, and it was for this entire session. Once we managed to climb above that and close above it, that took us to the next area of resistance. What was once good support becomes good resistance. Resistance sends price back to support, BBC, which sends price back to resistance, which sends price back to support, which sends price to resistance. Blue and climbing is your support here, resistance. And if there's ever been a melt up, look at the size of these candles coming down, and look at the size of these candles going up. Call it financial gravity or any name you want to give it. Markets have a tendency to fall faster than they climb. All that it takes for markets to fall is not a huge amount of selling. If buyers en masse, like a school of fish, decide that they're fighting a battle they cannot win at the moment, they just stop buying. And when buyers stop buying, now a lot of people were buying this all the way down. It can't go any lower. And there were opportunities. We had intraday hundreds of opportunities, as you'll see published in the alert channel and all the other places, and every day on the show. We recap every alert. We talk about it in depth. We've done that for years. If you're new to the program, at youtube.com/CFRN, you'll find an archive of every show for, the last 5 years or so with video. And you'll see me walking through those Concierge Trade Alerts, just as I'll do today. Okay? All right. So where are we now? Well, if we look left, this area that's already highlighted, that's our next area for resistance. Okay? If price can get through there, which I'm going to guess it won't the first time up. Now, think about this. What if we do get up to the resistance at about, maybe we'll call it 3110? A pullback to the BBC could be almost 100 points. Does that mean the sky is falling? Does that mean the recovery's done, finished, kaput? Well, to some it will seem that way, but we'll be expecting the BBC to hold because it holds more often than it doesn't. Right? Okay. Now there are times when it doesn't hold. That's how you get a bearish cross and a bullish cross, which are very important things for our trading methodology and strategy. So as we approach resistance, good chance we'll come back to find support. The first place to find support would be blue and climbing. Next place to find support would be that swing low, and then the BBC. But by that time, the BBC is going to be above that swing low, so that swing low won't be an issue. Okay. Now, when price pulls back to the BBC, and price always reverts to the mean, just so happens that our mean is green. Price always reverts to the mean. Sometimes it holds, sometimes it doesn't, but it holds more often than it doesn't. This time, now it held here and here and here. Do we know with 100% certainty that it's going to hold the next time? Nope. And no one does. Don't let them fool you. They can guess, and there's a 50-50 chance of being right. It either will or it won't. Our philosophy is we're going to wait and see if it does. If it does, then we're going to be focusing on long trades. If it doesn't, we're going to be focusing on short trades. So we don't have to preempt what the market does. We don't have to try to guess it or foretell it or any of that. Just show up. The market's already dancing when you walk into the room. You don't even have to say, Would you like to dance? You can just work your way out onto the dance floor, catch the rhythm of the market, right? And you're in full swing. Do what the market does, long enough to reach your goal for the day. Tip your hat, ma'am. Tip your server, and then get out. Okay? All right. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. These are the cash markets, the indices. And by the way, today's Dr. Tom Day. Every Thursday, Dr. Tom joins us. You know, I was reading the article he just wrote this week at conservativetruth.org. If you haven't read his website, he writes guy writes very well. He's written some great articles, and the one this week about how China shook down our economy. It's good reading, so you should check it out. All right, cash markets, indices, starting here in the U.S. The Dow currently up 131 points. NASDAQ up 75. S&P 500 up 20. And the Russell 2000 down less than a point. In the commodity basket, crude oil up 58 cents, trading 33.39 last. That's a gain of 1 3/4%. Gold up $9.20, trading 17.36 last. In the Asian markets at the close, Nikkei posted a gain of 497 points. That's almost 2.5%. Shanghai gained 9.5 points. The Hang Seng dropped 168 points. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE up 74, DAX up 123, and the CAC up 82. For the FTSE, that's a gain of 1 1/4%. For the DAX, it's a gain of 1%. And for the CAC, it's 1 3/4%. So there you have it. A mixed day in Asia, a green day in the UK, and it's a mixed day in the US of A only because the Russell is down less than a point. And that may very well change here within the next few minutes, which would make it green across the board, with the exception of the Hang Seng. There's no erasing that. It closed the session down 168 points. So with all that said, let's go to Michael and get a recap of what happened in the live training room this morning. John, if you're out there listening, just a reminder, today's Dr. Tom Day. He'll be on at the top of the hour. Haven't spoken to him today, but he always lets me know, lets one of us know if he's not going to show. So after Michael, if John pops in, we'll talk with him. We'll recap all of the alerts, as we do every day, either pre-Dr. Tom or post-Dr. Tom. However it shakes out, we'll get her done. All right, Coach, it's all yours.
Okay, I'm ready to go. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Today is Thursday, the 28th day of May, 2020. Just a reminder to everyone, all the active partners, we have a partners meeting tonight. Anybody who wants to become a partner, to get into the partners meeting, you must be a partner by 9 p.m. tonight. That's Eastern time. Okay, so if you have not taken a free trial with us, go to the home page at CFRN.net. Right over here in the right-hand column, it says free 5-day trial. No credit card required. If you click on that, you will then be brought to this page, EminiTrainingschool.com. On this page, all that we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. You can fill this out if you want to. Hit the send button, and you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay, if you don't click the confirmation link, we don't know that you took the free trial. Okay. Results. Okay, so I was saying earlier, now if you're going to read the spreadsheet first, I got to say this. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. I was saying earlier that out of the 19 days we have so far this month, we got our goal on the first trade 11 times. These are unprecedented times. Today we lost 12 ticks in crude, and we made 12 ticks on the yes. That put us just up above but we did get our goal on the first trade in 4 minutes. And if I could have put my mouse away, I would have ended better, but I couldn't. Anyway, we took a total of 10 trades this morning. So on the month now, we're at 5,880. That's per contract, 2 hours a day. And I'm missing most of the trades. So that's over 19 days, averaging $309 per contract per 2 hour day. On the year, we're at 36,215. That's over 97 days, averaging $373 per contract per 2 hour day. I hope we have a big one tomorrow in the month. I want to keep this above 300. So I'd like to get a better day than that. Now, let's see. We'll go through all the trade setups with you. There are a bunch. You see me drawing a whole bunch of lines in here, but I was explaining something. That's why I drew all those lines. And you can see the markets were just a mess. And Dwayne, I'm sure, will go over it with you later on. But on gold, we only had one trade setup that we took. And it doesn't look like I even marked it. It was the break even. I'll just say that. During the break, there was a trade setup right here. You could have gone long. There was a setup here that probably would have stopped you out. A setup here that would have been a break even. Just going back, I had one break even trade. I don't know where I did it, but we were break even on gold on the morning session. Okay. Let me minimize that and jump back in here on the euro. We didn't do anything. Once again, I tried to. This one right here, I tried to get into, but it didn't. It didn't get filled. Okay, and it was just the markets today were just a mess. During the break, after the European markets closed, things got better. There was a nice trade there, a nice trade there, a nice trade there, and then you get into the high of the day, so there's probably not trades there. Crude oil. What do we do with crude? Yeah, crude whooped us today. It's twice this week, I think. Yeah, it is twice this week. But let's go through it all. All right, our first trade on crude was right here. Now we had completed the ES trade to get the goal for the day, and this crude trade was still executing. It stopped us out pretty close to the tick, and then it went down and did what it should have done. There were a couple of trades in here that I missed. Had a break-even trade there. A stop out there. And then we picked up 4 ticks on this one. That put us at minus 12 on the morning session. In here, I was looking for it to get up above this level, but it failed to, and then it turned around, started coming back down. Crude inventories came out at 11 o'clock today, and it was a huge miss. We didn't have some good economic news today. I mean, it's not good overall, but it was better than expected economic news. I'm sure Dwayne will probably jump into that too. There was a short right here that I missed, a short right here that I missed. See how those were really nice profitable trades. Then we get into the break after the European markets closed and after we get away from the crude inventories. There's a nice trade there, a trade there, a trade there, a trade there, a trade there, here a trade, there a trade, or a trade. We're not trending in here, so there's no trades. And that was it on the crude for the morning session. Okay, now the ES. I'm going to show you the ES. I'm sure Dwayne's going to show this to you too. But you see how on a 30-minute chart, the MA1 was running right on top of the BBC, and both of them are flat. That made for some really complicated trading. Okay, and here's one of those dojis that Dwayne was just talking about, and that's a bearish sign right there. And the next candle dropped from 30.45 down to 30.30. So the next candle dropped 15 points. The numbers for the week. Now I'm giving them on crude and I'm giving them on the ES. On the ES, the number for the week is 30.34. It's already hit it, obviously. And the number for crude was 32.23. Okay. Because we had the API numbers come out yesterday and crude inventories come out today. But let's just go back and see what we did here with the CS. Come on. Get back there. Well, we had a break even there. Break even there. Break even there. +4 right there. Missed a trade right there. Missed a trade right there. I'm getting back to the first trade of the day. Here it was right here. We picked up 8 ticks on this trade right here. Okay, and look how choppy it was. How nasty it was right in here. And I put that trade on, I put the crude trade on at the same time. And so I was kind of going back and forth between the two and looking at the other markets and trying to establish trends and stuff like that. But we missed a trade here that would have been profitable, a trade here that would have been profitable, a trade here that would have been profitable. We got that one. We missed that one. Missed that one. We got that one. That would have been a break even. That last one. Then we started getting toward the end of the session. I was really at this point, I was pretty much done with trading because the markets are just a mess. You know, there were chances, but a lot of them are going to be break evens. And then we get into the break. And during the break, look at all this chop. Right at the high of the day. Anyway, that was our morning session today. Pop this up and nope, not yet, Dwayne. Not yet. I was just looking to see if John was out there. He's not. Okay, here we go. Today is Thursday, the 28th day of May 2020. We lost 12 ticks in crude. We made 12 ticks in the ES. Put us at +30 on the morning session. Today it took 4 minutes and 1 trade to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're at $100 a contract, took a total of 10 trades. So on the month now, we're at $5,880 a contract. That's over 19 trading days, averaging $309 per contract per 2-hour trading day. On the year, we're at $36,215. That's over 97 trading days, averaging $373 per contract per trading day. Okay. Now with that, oops, wait, I gotta show you how to take the free trial again. You can go straight to EminiTradingSchool.com, but if you go to the homepage here at CFRN.net, it says free 5-day trial, no credit card required. You click on that, it's going to bring you to this page. And on this page, all we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number, and you can fill this out if you want and hit the send button. Once you hit that send button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay. If you don't click that link, we don't know that you took the free trial. So, okay, with that, we can now pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. I don't see John out there right now.
Okay. No worries. Couple things of interest, folks, in the headlines today. U.S. coronavirus death toll hits 100,000. I thought we hit that earlier in the week, but it's a headline today. Now that's a horrible thing. That's 100,000 lives. That's 100,000 families affected. I mean, it runs deep. And with that said, if you stand back and look at the big picture of humanity and the world at large, and all the things that people do die from. Well, right now, one statistic that stood out to me, right now, in Northern California, the current suicide rate is much higher than the death by coronavirus rate. People choosing to end their own life as opposed to some unseen assailant or some invisible assailant choosing to end their life. I mean, what's going on? So again, I will never attempt to minimalize this, because even one life touched, that's a family touched for generations. I mean, there's nothing good about that. And I know that you've heard the phrase about the cure being worse than the problem and all of that. And so, I don't know. We got to figure this one out, because if this thing was cooked up where we think it was, and if things were, as Dr. Tom spoke about a couple weeks ago, and as he wrote about at conservativetruth.org, then even if COVID-19 doesn't come back, there's probably something treacherous waiting in the wings. And I don't say that to scare you. I don't want you to live in fear. The Bible says, more often than anything else, fear not. So, and I heard an analogy the other day. A preacher, Steve Furtick. I like that guy. If you guys aren't familiar with him, the church is Elevation Church. They got a great worship team. Carrie Job, I don't know if she's part of their worship team, or if the time I saw it, she was just singing with them, but great worship team. He's a controversial preacher, but I kind of like his style. I kind of like his message. He accidentally, now there's a Walking Dead spoiler alert coming up here. I mean, I'm going to say something that if you aren't current on The Walking Dead, you might want to take your headphones off or turn your speakers down for the next 3 minutes. But I just thought this was such a great analogy. This preacher, he said, I was just going through the channels one day, and I came across this thing called The Walking Dead, and so I decided to look at it, and it happened to be an episode in season 6. And Rick was there in season 6. Doesn't matter what episode, it was season 6. Now, he only watched it for a few minutes, and he goes, man, I think I might like this. So he went back to season 1, episode 1. Those of us who started at season 1, episode 1, every episode, I mean, Rick had more brushes with death than most artists have with a canvas. And while we were on the edge of our seat wondering, oh man, is this the episode where Rick gets whacked or bit? But as Steve watched it, he enjoyed it very much. But because he accidentally watched part of season 6 before he watched season 1, he was never quite on the edge of his chair the way the rest of us were. Because he knew in season 6 that Rick is still alive. So maybe you need to jump over to Revelation. That could be a very scary chapter of the Bible, or a book of the Bible, for a new believer. But that's kind of the end of the story. And some of the wording and imagery in there can be frightening. But the moral of Revelations is God wins, the enemy doesn't. And everything else, this whole life we live here on planet Earth, it's a precursor moving up to that point. Now, if you've already seen season 6, if you already know how this thing called life ends, right? Then, yeah, you might still be on the edge of your seat in season 1 and season 2, and some of us are in season 60. Some of us are approaching season 61. You follow me? But I already know how it ends. Doesn't mean I can't enjoy every day to its fullest. In fact, that should give me reason to enjoy each day to its fullest. So, think about it. If you already know how the story ends, then, if God's for me, I don't care who's against me, right? Okay. Our hearts and prayers and thoughts go out to the family of this gentleman, George Floyd. And, I'll go out on a limb and say, let us pray, as well for the family of that police officer and that police officer himself. We know nothing about him, at least I don't. He might be a bad person by the way we judge. Maybe he's a good person that made a mistake. I don't know. But I bet you if he had yesterday to do over, I bet he'd have done it differently. And George Floyd would still be alive. So a lot of people are going through a lot of pain right now. George Floyd's family, the policeman's family, the nation. A horrific thing. And this young girl who videotaped it, a young black African-American teenager, she's getting pelted on social media about how could you stand there and film this horrific thing and not attempt to do something about it? Well, I mean, she's a young teenage girl, and the guy who's, being the bad guy in this picture, he got a gun and a taser and a badge, which means he's supposed to be the adult in the room. Fortunately, in this case, well, so, I would say pray for her as well. What else has caught my eyes in the headlines today? Oh, this executive order that Trump is going to issue on social media. What are the details? This comes from Twitter fact-checking something Trump said. Now, I don't think the president should have a problem with anything he says publicly being fact-checked. But who's the fact-checker? Those of you that are familiar with Snopes, S-N-O-P-E-S, it's a man and a woman, a husband and a wife. They used to work out of their living room. They've got so much notoriety now that I'm sure they have a nice office with a staff and whatnot. But those facts are checked, leaning very far to the left. Very far. They might fall off the internet if they keep leaning that far, right? So, yeah, fact-checking's okay, but, sometimes you got to fact-check the fact-checker. And from what I understand, this Trump Twitter issue, the fact-checkers got out fact. You know what I mean? Okay. What else? House to delay extending surveillance laws after Trump veto threat. I don't know enough about that to talk about it. Boeing is letting go of 10% of their workforce. That's 6,000 people who had a job, who won't have a job. Now, with a big company like Boeing, I'm sure they get exit interviews and some kind of exit package and other things. That doesn't change the fact that, losing a loved one, losing a career, job changes in general, are they're major life events. So keep those people in your prayers. Tropical storm Bertha drenches the eastern Carolinas. SpaceX delays the first astronaut launch due to bad weather. They're going to try it again on Saturday. Okay, let me entertain you. No, just kidding. Hang on. Let's look at this. All right,
Still not.
we're in week 95. Yeah, that's no problem. It'll give me more time to get the recap done, and then we can talk to Tom at the top of the hour. Thanks. All right, we're in week 95 of Logic 247. Now, yesterday at this time, we had a total of 37 alerts issued. Today, we've got 54 total alerts issued. 9 never triggered. 5 we're still waiting on a disposition. So out of the 54, we've had 40 actionable alerts. 2 have been stopped out. That's 5% of actionable alerts stopped out. Now, with the alerts, both Logic and Concierge, we don't want to risk more than $300 per contract per trade to find out if our analysis is actually what's going to bear fruit in the market. 5% is a low number. We've averaged over the last 95 weeks 20% being stopped out. So think of the weight loss commercial, the before and after picture. Down at the bottom it says these are not typical results. Okay? So by the end of the week, this may be much closer to 20. But these are 40 actionable alerts. Monday was a holiday, so we'll count Sunday and Monday as one day. Tuesday, Wednesday, today's Thursday. So, Monday, Tuesday. So we'll call it 4 days, because we do have that Sunday night. We start Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. So that's 10 actionable alerts a day on average, right? Now, when we say actionable alert, that means something that you get notified of, that you then go to your chart, you see it, you embrace it, you understand it, and then you place the order. If you're new with us, of course, you place the order in SIM until you've put together 10 consecutive days in a row. That's how you get the green light from the blueprint to go live. And once you do go live, your next goal is to make $2,000, increase the balance of your account by $2,000. Then you get the green light to add a second contract. So it goes with number 3, number 4, number 5. Okay, so at each step of the way, you're always adding the next contract with profit you earned in the market. If you don't have profit that you earned in the market, then you should not be adding another contract. And anytime you have 2 days back to back where you don't reach your goal, in 10 trades or less, you immediately come out of the live market. You go back into SIM. It's not a walk of shame. It's a smart business decision. Something Warren Buffett might do. You go back to SIM, you book a one-on-one mentoring session. And by the way, if you're a member of CFRN, you have unlimited access to one-on-one mentoring sessions. Either myself or Michael or both of us will get together with you. We'll walk through that rough patch you hit. We'll take each trade, we'll dissect it, piece by piece, each step. If you miss something, we'll point it out. If you didn't understand something, we'll help you understand it. Whatever it takes so that you understand what happened. Getting stopped out is as much a part of trading as breathing is a part of life. What hurts so many traders is that when they do get stopped out, they have no understanding of why, right? And knowing that takes the sting out of everything. It's kind of like watching season 6 before you watch season 1. All right, John has arrived, so let us open our doors and our microphone. And John, welcome to the show.
Hi there.
Good to have you with us.
Thanks. Great to be here. It's been quite a good day so far, actually. The market came down last night. Give us a second chance at going long for another run up today. We had a good run up yesterday into the launch, including Tesla, but Tesla's kind of gone to sleep a little bit since.
To the launch, and they postponed the launch till Saturday, right?
Yeah, so there's a pretty good chance we're going to continue this rally into tomorrow afternoon, and this is actually acting really strong. And once again, we came down, had this pullback, and basically have set the market up for a potential run to new highs here. And we actually have a potentially very good, buy signal, good structure to lift off from. And Apple is getting close to hitting all-time highs. It's actually back to a level that I got somebody out at, about 323, before this plunge. And guess what? Just got back to 323 again. How about that? But we got to be very careful, because we're probably going to put in a double top of some sort here on Apple. But at least they're going to run into resistance pretty much at the all-time highs. And I don't think you can honestly say that Apple today is anything like where it was a few months ago. in terms of production, sales, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
So,
we've been rolling sideways here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 sessions.
Yeah.
We had that gap higher open back on the 15th of May. We haven't really done a lot since then. But we've held up. We haven't dropped.
I mean, it could actually,
Never
it
closed
could
that
really
gap.
go through. It could go through the, the all-time highs here with some authority, actually. Potentially up to 340, 360 even. And Amazon is, actually it's kind of consolidating right below our target of 2,500 right now. But again, it looks actually kind of poised for a run-up towards the previous high, as you can see. Boeing has been doing very nicely. BA.
This is very bullish right here.
Right, exactly.
Daily candle.
No, it really,
Very
it
bullish.
really is. And they came out with some good news this morning. Apparently, they're going to hire about half of what they took on about 150,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to hire about 80,000 of them permanently. So that's actually pretty good news, I would think.
And Boeing announced today they're laying off 6,000.
Yeah, I mean, we were actually long Boeing from a few days ago, actually, and I told the guys to get out today, just because it looks a little bit tricky. But we might get back in before the close, because it's quite possible we could gap up again tomorrow on Boeing. It's almost going kind of a little bit parabolic there. You see the upward curvature implies that we're potentially accelerating to the upside. So we had a little bit of a lucky break this morning with a little company called ABIO.
What is it again?
ABIO. Put people in at $8 and got them out at 12.5. I didn't get back in. I should have bought it back at around 11. 10 rather. It came down to. I thought it would come down and test the 10, which it's done. May not be over going higher today. I mean, I'm not recommending the stock at this point, but we did get a good trade off it this morning, and it's come up with some kind of a formula for unblocking rather the clots that are going on with all these poor unfortunate people who get this virus in the lungs and things, or get it in their body. It tends to. One of the problems is blood clots. So this is potentially quite a big deal, and I would keep a pretty good eye on this stock. I mean, it had a run up before, as you can see, but this might be, this actually could go still higher. It sort of came down and tested the 10, and now it's above 10. So, if it were to go back up towards the highs of the day and close near the highs, it probably would mean that we're going to go up and test, the 20 or something like that.
As we've discussed many times, I mean, the last time this stock did a number like this, well, these parabolic moves, they just usually don't. It's rare to find a parabolic move that sticks.
Yeah.
And becomes the new support.
Yeah, INO is doing quite nicely today. INO, it's sort of may have put in a low the last day or two.
Got a nice little trend line right here.
Yeah. If it gets above 14 again, that's potentially a pretty good. I think this thing could. You have to be prepared for upside surprises on this one. So the mRNA actually gave a terrific buy yesterday. It went down in the morning, and then it bottomed a couple of hours into the session, and it went up with the vengeance, and it closed pretty strong yesterday with that hammer, kind of a bullish hammer. What do you call that? That kind of a doji?
Which one?
The yesterday, the upside reversal.
This one?
Here.
Well, it's a version of a hammer.
Yeah, exactly. and it was pretty bullish. So, anytime you get a thing like that with a green on it, it's a pretty good bet.
Yeah, the thing that's of value in that signal there is the where it go, the tail. Yeah, this tail right here sticking out below this obvious level right here. The fact that it closed green, and that's basically a hammer with a little wick on top. So, and then we gapped higher again today. What else we got?
So, I would be mindful of the possibility that we could actually pull back from here. We're getting a little bit of resistance up around on the NASDAQ right now, and FedEx, which we mentioned a few days ago, continues to act very well. DX.
There you go.
Yeah, and the silver is actually acting really well too.
Yeah, it's been walking sideways here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You need to get that?
No, it's okay.
Got eight sessions that we've just been consolidating here. So, if we could just break to the upside, take out 18, then 19. It's been a while.
Yeah. So, it really looks very bullish on that chart. It could be explosively bullish actually. Really, this thing could really go. It could really go. Not parabolic, but it could certainly go up to 25 pretty quickly, I think.
I agree.
It's sort of it seems to be gearing up for that right now. It's $18 is a very key level for the silver. So, everything else sort of.
Anything else you want to look at?
No, I think we're. I was just checking just a minute. I want to have a look at the airline stocks for a minute. Yeah, I think there's actually these airline stocks, even though they have a nice rally, they seem to be running into trouble, a bit of trouble here, and
but
the financials.
This low here on the chart, $20 for UAL. These wicks, price is getting rejected there, so there's definitely buying pressure down at these levels around this $20 level.
Yeah. Okie doke.
All right, John. Have a good one.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right,
Bye.
take care. All right, guys, back to the recap. All right, if you want to grab a screenshot, go ahead. You can see that the long alert last night for the S&P, 3042, and 3042, right about here. Unfortunately, let me kill John's mic.
Hopefully for just probably tomorrow afternoon or maybe on the weekend.
There we go. Okay. So 3042 on the S&P. The alerts got out last night at 6:25 p.m. Eastern. 3042. It's not straight, but it'll have to do. 3042. Okay. Now, as we discussed this morning in the live training room, and as I discussed with everyone before Wall Street opened this morning, in the pre-training room, pointed out how the S&P last night, okay, we had our pullback to the BBC, caught a nice leg to the upside, which ended in a doji, which represents indecision, which sent price back to support, back below the trigger. Okay, so this first move to be long 3042, actually, let's see, they came out at 2025, so that'd be the 20, Yeah, it was during the life of this candle, right, that the alerts came out. So the initial move off 3042 took us to 3053, 9 points. At $50 a point, that's $450 per contract traded. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested. So price came back to the BBC, found support, triggered again. Now, from the entry at 3042 to the swing high at 52, that's a 10-point move. However, it was dicey in that you've got red and falling overhead, and most often that's going to represent resistance. Okay, so as opposed to entering right at the trigger, if you waited for this candle, the open of this candle opened at 3045 and then ran to 3052. It's a 7-point move at $50 a point, $350 per contract traded. Now, when the indicators get tied up like this in a knot, that's a market that's best left alone until it sorts itself out. What we want to see are moves like this, a leg and a retracement and a leg, right? And then a pullback. Even if it fails, that's okay, because we can trade it, on the short side, back down to the zone. But when you have this on your screen, let it go. I told the guys this morning, guys, let it go till we can really get a move onto the upside. And that has been our sentiment and bias all morning, has been to the upside. And we're approaching a number that I cautioned everyone about this morning. We're at it. We're at the area where I would anticipate some good resistance. If we get through this area, our highest weekly trading zone for the S&P is 3077/78.
John just popped in, by the way.
I'm sorry?
I said John's in.
Oh, no, we already talked to him and we're done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You wait.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm just waiting on Dr. Tom now.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Okay.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
No, I said I'm just waiting on Dr. Tom now. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Okay, so
No problem.
now over here where we had red and falling, okay, that's kind of beating price down. Can you visualize that? It's just kind of beating price tries, man, it tries, but red and falling knocks it down, knocks it down, knocks it down, until red and falling becomes red and flat, becomes blue and flat, becomes blue and climbing. Now look at these 30-minute candles, okay, starting with this one. Each one of these is a half hour, so there's 1 hour, 2 hours. We're working on the third hour. We don't have a single close below that step line. That's a real sign of strength. Could this thing go parabolic and run up to that zone? It's possible. But it's got to get through this area right here first. And that's a major area. Why is my phone making noises when I didn't touch it? Oh, that's that old Dr. Tom guy messing with me again. Let me open up your mic. Hang on. Dr. Tom, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I've been yelling. I've been sending up smoke signals.
Have you? I'm sorry. Well, we're just glad you're here.
I was
Right
here
right now.
I was right here. How you doing today?
Good, good. I read your article this morning on conservativetruth.org, the one you published this week, and I just wanted to, I've already told the audience, I just wanted to tell you, I thought that was very well written. Everything you write is well written, but I think you really nailed it with that article.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I've been studying that quite a bit. As you know, I'm a heavy-duty researcher, right? So, how's everything out there in Arizona?
Things are well. Things are well. It's hot, unseasonably warm, excessive heat warnings, but that's just part of living in Arizona. Are you going to, are you doing a slideshow today?
Yes, sir.
Well, let me send you the charts. There you go. Okay. Famous shipwreck gold finds.
Well, we'll probably start at the beginning, though.
Okay.
The only money God ever made. You know, God's pretty smart. And he never made paper money. He never made any kind of money that's not backed by anything. And like the old bumper sticker said, you know, God doesn't make garbage. Let's talk about people. But it's true about money, too. He only ever made one kind of money, and that was precious metals. And he made it in a limited edition. Okay? All the gold ever mined in the history of the world, not just the last 100 years or whatever, but going back, the best number they can come up with is 161,000 tons of gold, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually extremely rare. All of that gold would fit in 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So it's one of the rarest things on Earth, and therefore one of the most valuable. The Bible actually talks a lot about gold. I mean, I could do a whole hour just on what the Bible says about gold. But the fact that in the very first book of the Bible, here Genesis 2:10 through 11, it speaks about a river named Cheyenne. It's actually how you pronounce it. You ignore the P. Which, quote, which encompasses the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. So God starts off with the first book of the Bible by saying that gold is good. Why? Okay, well, here's a hint. Haggai 2:8. God says, the silver is mine and the gold is mine, says the Lord of hosts. Well, gee, why did he say that? I mean, everything belongs to him. The sun and the moon and the stars and the cattle on 1,000 hills and, you know, everything is God's. So why did he point out these 2 particular items and say these are his? He could have said, you know, the hummingbirds and the tangerines are mine, and be just as truthful, right? So what is it? Well, if you study the whole Bible, you know, people call it the whole counsel of the Word of God, you see that God is very pro precious metals, and he gave them to us to be the foundations of economies that were solid, stable, not subject to manipulation by the government or the bankers, and not going, economies based on precious metals don't go into inflation and deflation and stagflation and low-deflation and all that stuff. So basically, the bankers and the politicians can't manipulate gold. They can try. I mean, there have been times when the central banks wanted to drive the price of gold down because gold going up made their currency really look bad. So they would sell tons of gold, but then they'd always have to buy it back again because they have to have gold in the central banks as part of the reserves. So you really can't manipulate it. When you see the word money in the Bible, it's basically, depending on the Old or New Testament, the Hebrew, the Greek words for gold or silver. So if it's transactional, if it's talking about paying a servant or buying food or whatever, it's the word for silver. If it's for buying a huge piece of land or for wealth preservation or for savings, then it's the word for gold. So silver is more transactional, gold is more wealth building. But the bottom line is gold and silver are the only biblical money. There's nothing else in the Bible that's ever used or referred to as money. And our founding fathers understood this, regardless of what a lot of people say that they were deists and atheists and all that kind of thing. Most of them were Christians. If you actually read what they said instead of reading what somebody else says about what they said. The atheist ones want to push the idea that our founding fathers were atheists, and so on. But if you actually read what they said, these were not only guys who were Christians, but even the few who weren't were very well versed in the Word of God, because that was the primary textbook in all the schools back then. So you see a lot in the Constitution that comes right from the Word of God. For instance, our Constitution is the only one that has ever defined money. The first Constitution, and as far as I know, the last Constitution ever to actually say what money is. They'll just refer to money, but our Constitution says that our money is silver and gold. And then there's the Coinage Act of 1792. The Bible talks about, woe to him who has dishonest scales. So they had scales and certain size rocks or pieces of lead or whatever they used for the counterbalance. And anybody who messes with the scales or messes with the weights, the people that were trusted to weigh things and give true value, carried around their counterweights in a little leather bag. And they got the death penalty if they cheated people. Well, in the Coinage Act of 1792 in this country, the death penalty was prescribed for any officer of the mint or any employee who would either lower the amount of gold, put more copper than they're supposed to, because all circulating coins are a combination of usually around 93, 94% gold and 6 or 7% copper to strengthen them. So if they did that, or if they underweighted the coins, they could get the death penalty for that. Okay, so it's the only money that's been used for 6,000 years in hundreds of civilizations. It's the only biblical money. It's the only legal constitutional money. So gold is money. This failed experiment we've been involved in for the last 80 years of having paper money backed by nothing is doomed to failure, because every nation that's ever tried it has crashed and burned, and every nation that's used the God standard, real money, has thrived and prospered and been blessed. So that's what God is saying to us here, that gold and silver are my way of helping you to be a prosperous nation. Here's another place where the Bible talks about gold. It's in Matthew 25. And the talent is not like, playing the clarinet. I had one Sunday school teacher tell us, you need to use your talents for God. And they were using this passage of scripture for that. But the talent has nothing to do with talents as we think of them today. It was actually a bag of gold that was the equivalent, a lot of gold, the equivalent of a working man's wages for 20 years for a common labor. And if he's a skilled laborer, it was about 10 years worth of wages. So whichever way you cut it, that's a lot of money. Now, the only money God ever made was gold. And that's what I want to talk about today. But I want to take just a real quick rabbit trail here, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. We usually say that the sin of the unfaithful servant was that he didn't trust in God, that he was fearful. So he hid the talent in the ground. He buried it, which is the modern equivalent of buying a bond or getting a CD. You actually lose money on those things because inflation is bigger than the pitiful interest you get on those things. But the more I look at this chapter, the real sin was the fact that he didn't, not that he didn't increase the assets of the master, but he didn't even try to. He said, I was afraid, that you would be upset if I invested and lost any money. So I hid it in the ground. And that's what he was really berated by the master for. And the other way you can see that this was something God expected, not just that we're supposed to keep the assets he's given us safe, but we're also supposed to grow them. You can see that in the fact that he gave the talent that he took away from the unfaithful servant to the guy who had made the most, not the middle guy who had made a profit, but to the one who made the most. So he's encouraging using his assets, because they are, whatever you've got, whatever I've got, belongs to God.
And somewhere he said, go forth and multiply.
That's right, he did. Okay, the physical characteristics of gold. This is fascinating to me because it just shows how well God planned. Why he said that this was the money, and he made it so valuable in so many ways. First of all, it's very malleable, which means it's easy to form into various different things, like stamping out coins. Easily done, because it's not a real hard metal. It's ductile. I've read somewhere you could take an ounce of gold, and if you know how to do it properly, you could stretch it out into a wire that's not much bigger than a thread, and that's hundreds of yards long. Okay, so it's very ductile. It's a great conductor, not just a good conductor, a great conductor of electricity. When people harvest computers, they don't take anything. The hard drives, they're all out of date a year after the computer's made. The power supplies, they're used. They're not worth harvesting. The only thing they harvest is the gold off the circuit boards. Then they throw all the rest of it away. So they're not really recycling the computers. They're just getting the gold. If you go to buy an HDMI cable at the audio store, if it's got gold ends on it, it's plated with gold, it's more expensive than the ones that are plated with silver because it's a better conductor. It resists corrosion. I've got a Spanish half doubloon coin that came off a treasure ship hanging around my neck, and it is bright, brilliant, shiny, and it came out of the sea that way after 200 years of being underwater. It didn't corrode or anything. The silver almost turns black under those conditions. It's so tarnished. It reflects infrared radiation. That's an important point in lots of types of industrial uses. As far as making coins, it readily alloys with other metals. Some metals just don't have that characteristic. You can't alloy them in with others easily, or in some cases at all. But as I mentioned, you have to have copper in both gold and silver coins to strengthen them, to make them stand up to wear and tear. Because people, your granddad, maybe your father, carried around gold coins in their pocket, and they were clinking together. If it was pure gold, they'd be destroyed in no time at all. And it's extremely dense. If you hold a silver coin the same exact diameter and thickness as a gold coin in one hand and gold coin in the other hand, you can readily tell how dense, how heavy gold is. I was speaking at a Christian business college in Vancouver a number of years ago, on the same stage with Peter Daniels. He's known as the richest Christian in the world, and he's made billions and billions of dollars with precious metals. And we were talking about the characteristics of gold. So a lady came up to me afterwards and said, I'm an Olympic gold medalist. I said, no, I didn't know, but I'm impressed, And we talked about that for a little bit. She said, the reason I wanted to talk to you is I want to know, is my gold medal gold? And I said, well, I would assume so. I mean, you guys worked for 20 years. getting ready for the Olympics. They made billions and billions of dollars off it. I would think they would at least give you a real gold medal and a real silver medal or whatever. But I said, bring it in tomorrow. I'll tell you for sure. So she brought it in. She laid it on my hand. I said, it's not gold. She said, well, aren't you going to test it? I said, I just did. You know, I've handled gold enough. I know. By the way, this is cheap pot metal, and they've plated it with gold. And they do the same thing with the silver metals, which is kind of a shame. You know, I mean, they seems like they ought to give them something real, right? But I travel all around the world teaching in conferences and churches about biblical economics, and I'm a professor of biblical economics. So I've studied a lot about what the Bible says about gold, and people just don't understand until they feel it. So like I'll pass around a $20 US gold coin, a 1 ounce gold coin, and as soon as people touch it, as soon as they feel it, they say, wow, this feels like money. Yeah, it's because it's real. And that may be the first time you've ever held real money in your hand, if they've never actually handled gold before. So it's just a great metal. And here's the oldest gold coin in the world. It may not look like much to you, but in person it looks great. But as you can tell, it's handmade. It's the lion coin from Lydia, which is a kingdom of Asia Minor, which you'll find in the Bible also. And I own one of these. It's just a fantastic coin to think that you're holding a coin.
Did you get that for your bar mitzvah?
I'm sorry?
Did you get that as a child at your bar mitzvah? I was making a joke about how old you are, but anyway, go ahead.
Actually, it was in a box of Cracker Jacks. It was a prize.
Gotcha.
So here's some gold coins from biblical times. This is a Roman coin, and you can see they're handmade because they're not perfectly round and not perfectly.
Do you have any of these?
Oh yeah.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, so what are we talking? 2,000 years, roughly?
Yeah, that's the ones I particularly look for, but some of them are 5,000 years old. Like the Roman denarius as a silver coin that was circulating way back in Roman times. Mm-hmm. The gold aureus was another one. But gold has always been a sign of power and wealth. Here's the ancient Roman Colosseum commemorated. And you see when they stamped it, some of the gold kind of squeezed out the side there. But it's
what a coin would look like if I tried to make it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's remarkably good artwork. Consider everything was done by hand. I mean, some of the coins I've seen, you can see the nose hairs in the king's nostrils.
Now, so is this supposed to be a specific weight? Is that the coins we were just looking at? Does that represent a gram of gold, or?
No. Most of the gold coins they made back in ancient times were fairly small.
So it was face value and had really nothing to do with the content or weight of the gold itself.
Well, no. The weight was important. It's just that gold was so expensive, they made them small. And,
right. That's what I was trying to figure out. I mean, did that represent like an ounce? Obviously, the coin is too small to represent an ounce of gold. I was just wondering if it was like a gram or a few grams of gold.
Most of the ones I've seen are somewhere between a fifth and a quarter of an ounce. It's only in modern times that we've discovered enough gold to where we can make 1 ounce coins.
So back then, if you were getting ready to spend one of those coins, is the guy that you're spending it with going to weigh it, or is he going to just accept it because he recognizes the face that's imprinted on it?
It's going to be just like when you would spend a silver dollar.
Okay.
Yeah. If the government says it's worth this much, then people accept that. Okay, so history really is incomplete without coins. There are so many periods of history where there's gaps. And like this one was king, and then there's a period of 100 years where we have no historical record, and then another king pops up. So it's through coins that they've been able to discover that so-and-so was king during the first part of that period, and this person was queen during that part of the period. But you also learn things about the times, like what's the queen that Elizabeth Taylor portrayed?
Cleopatra?
Cleopatra. Okay. Cleopatra
I guess
did
I
not
never really
look.
thought of her as a queen, but I guess she was a queen.
She was.
Yeah, I just always thought of her as Cleo. Okay, gotcha.
Well, when y'all went to school together, people
Right, yeah.
use names like that. But Cleopatra did not look anything like Elizabeth Taylor. If you look at the coin with her image on it, she was pug ugly. I mean, really. But so you just discover little things like that. Also, like during the Black Plague, that was the first time a Bible verse was ever put on a coin, because they didn't have radio and TV, and Al Gore hadn't invented the internet,
Right.
and they didn't have newspapers. They had a town crier and so on. But a big part of the way they communicate with the people was by what's on the coins, you know, so that you'd have the king or the emperor, whatever, and all of his titles and stuff like that. But during the Black Plague in England, they had scripture verses on the coins to encourage people, because, you know, anywhere from a third to a half the people in the world died of the Black Plague. And guess what? They never shut down a single business. That's a side issue, but 100 years ago, we had the Spanish flu in this country. 20 times as many people died as are even predicted to die of the China virus.
Right.
And the United States never shut down businesses. So, make you think. But that's not my subject for today. Okay, so here's sort of a chronicle.
Well, I mean, the fact that it appears that the coronavirus saga is going to have a better ending than was anticipated, you know, is that possibly a result of us doing the right things? And I know there's two sides to this argument, and I can make both sides very convincingly.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer, honestly.
In my opinion, a lot of the people that died because of the lockdown.
Sure.
If they'd done the smart thing and isolated the elderly and the infirm, right, which is what our governor here in Florida did, Governor DeSantis. He locked down the nursing homes. He didn't allow the hospitals to send patients, even if they were asymptomatic. If they tested positive for the China virus, they weren't allowed to go into the nursing homes.
Well, those lockdown nursing homes, those became a problem unto themselves in some areas of the country. I don't know about Florida. I think up in the state of Washington and maybe New York. That's where some of the worst fatalities happened. But again, you're taking those most likely to contract it, to get sick from it, and to die from it, and you're concentrating them in one place away from the rest of the population. And that sounds like a horrible thing to do to the people that we should respect the most in our society. But perhaps it was the best thing to do for the society. Now, I saw a thing the other day. What was I watching? Oh, Tucker Carlson the other night. He did an expose on elder abuse, and they showed some of the most shocking video that was shot in some nursing homes. Like this one young man of color had a job, I guess, as an orderly or something, and he was just pummeling this poor old man in the face. I could barely stand to watch it. And of course, they kept playing it over and over for shock value.
When I was a young guy, I was a carpenter, and I was doing some work in a nursing home.
Yeah.
And I saw this woman that worked there taunting this old lady. She had a doll, and she thought that was her daughter. So, you know, mentally she wasn't there, obviously.
Right. And
so she took it away from her. She said, well, you know, here. And they would reach out and she'd pull it back. And that was just, I reported her to the nursing home director, but then I saw an orderly slap one of the patients, and I knocked his lights out, and he was just sort of unconscious. I just reached out and whacked him and knocked him on the ground. And, I mean, a lot of stuff happens. So when this thing first started, I told all my friends that had parents in the nursing home, I said, go grab them, throw them in the back seat, bring them home. Isolate them in a bedroom at home, but don't leave them in a nursing home. But yeah, if there's anybody that comes in to visit, if there's no virus at all in a nursing home, if anybody comes in to visit, they can carry it in there. The nurses and someone that work there, they go out in the public,
Right.
and then they come back.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a dangerous place to be. But I wanted to mention Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York. I mean, he
What a
has
sideshow
literally,
this guy is, right?
he has the blood of almost 6,000 elderly citizens on his hands because he ordered the nursing homes to accept infected patients, and it was his idea of isolating and quarantining him, but he signed the death warrant for all the healthy people in there, and he wouldn't even allow the nursing homes to test to see who was positive, so they could maybe put the positive ones in one wing and the healthy people in another wing. So he's a murderer as far as I'm concerned. 1/4 of all the deaths in New York happened in the nursing homes because of his actions. So DeSantis did exactly the opposite, and we've had hardly any deaths down here. And so therefore, Florida is a poster child for how to do it. There was very, very minimal lockdown. One of the first essential services he listed was church. And New York and Cuomo are the poster child for how not to do it. Okay. But back to gold in history. This is a series of Roman coins that depict the various different emperors and so on. And I wish I had time to tell you about each one of them, but it's fascinating stuff.
How many years does this span? Do you know off the top of your head?
I think it's about 2,500 years.
Okay.
Okay, the Spanish Empire was really big into gold. As a matter of fact, if you study history, you're going to find that most of the empire building by the Romans, the Spanish, the English, and to a lesser extent the French, they were not big empire builders, but they did do some. It's just very interesting that most of the places where they decided that the people needed to be civilized, and we could come in and help them be like us, all just happened to be countries that had gold. And the Spanish were really, really crazy for gold. They sent explorers all over the world, but a lot to Central and South America and later to North America. Here's one of the explorers that brought back a lot of gold. His name was El Dorado. Hernan Cortez, you probably heard of him, and Hernando de Soto. But this is the thing that I think is so hilarious. This is King Ferdinand of Spain. He just looks like a kind of a mean guy. But he told his explorers, get gold humanely if you can. In other words, if you don't have to kill or maim people, well, then don't do that unless it's necessary. But at all hazards, get gold. So be humane if you can, but I don't really care how many people you have to kill, how many people you have to torture to find out where the gold is. You bring me back gold, or I'll kill you or torture you. So not exactly a poster child for a benign ruler. The British Empire. They say the sun never sets on the British Empire. All of the red places there were part of the British Empire at one time or another. And actually the United States should be colored in red there too. But, literally anywhere in the world the sun was shining, it was shining on the British Empire. And they did a lot of gold exploration. This is an elephant and castle coin. A little hard to see, but look at under the busts. You see an elephant there, and you see a castle on its back. Okay, the elephant indicated the country of India, because they had a lot of elephants there, and the castle on its back, dominating it, is the English Empire, British Empire at the time. The Vigo coin. This was a port in Spain where the British Empire sent their fleet in and sank all the Spanish ships. They had good intelligence back in those days, apparently, because they knew that there was quite a large number of ships in port with a lot of gold on them.
That's a gorgeous coin. Look at the details still.
Yes, that's Anne, and it is a fantastic coin. Love it. So this is one of the coins that was made from gold, where we went in and scuttled all those ships and took tons of gold back to England. This has an interesting story because the flagship of the fleet came sailing up the River Thames to the London Bridge. And there they were met by none other than Sir Isaac Newton. And they didn't unload all the gold there. It wasn't a port. But the captain gave Sir Isaac Newton a big chunk of gold. And he took it back to the mint because not a lot of people know this, but for a number of years, he was the master of the British Mint. And he produced 12 coins like this, only 12. Only 6 exist today. And of those 6, 4 are in museums. So there's only 2 that can be owned by the public. And this is the best of the 2. And we obtained it for one of our clients. Okay. So Sir Isaac Newton made the 12 coins. He went to the palace and presented them personally to Queen Anne. And then I got to hold it. So this coin was held by 3 very important people. Okay. Okay, the East India Company. This is fascinating because no matter how many bureaucrats they had, the British Empire grew so quickly that they didn't have enough bureaucrats to run all the places that they conquered. So they allowed quasi-governmental companies to be founded. And the East India Company is one of the most famous. And by the way, just back one for a second, Vigo, that was the name of the port. So they used gold that came from certain places and stamped it. You see the Vigo under the Queen Anne there, to show that that's where it came from, but also to kind of rub it in the face of whatever country they took it from. We'll see another one like this. So they're saying to Spain, ha ha, we got you. Showing their dominance. So the East India Company actually had coins made. They weren't a governmental organization, but they had the power of government. The King of England would say, okay, you go govern this country, this colony, or whatever. And so they had a lot of power. They were still subordinate to the government, but like I said, they were quasi-governmental. And again, you look underneath the bust there, and if you look carefully, you see EIC. That's the East India Company. Okay, Lima. Here's another great example. This was gold that we stole, not we, but the English stole from the Peruvians. So Lima was a city in Peru.
I've been there.
And you have?
Uh-huh.
Did you see any of the gold?
On my way to, I think we flew into Lima. We were going to, our ultimate destination was Ecuador, but I think we flew into Lima.
Well, they had a lot of gold there apparently, and again, if you look below the bust, you see Lima. This is England saying to Peru, "Yep, we got you, buddy. We took your gold and we made coins out of it, and we put your name on it, just so you'll never forget that we're the big dog." Hammered gold coins. These were made, by hand, with a guy with a sledgehammer. His biceps were as big around as my thigh. All he did was whack coins all day long. And again, they're not perfect, but I love them because every single one is unique. They tried to make them all look the same. They all had the same dies, but they all came out differently. So it's the difference between someone painting the original oil painting and then they're making prints off of it. The minted coins do all come out exactly the same. You can see this one here, 1643. Okay, and look at the legend in Greek there, or in Latin.
Mm-hmm.
Relig prot. It translates roughly as the religion of the Protestants, because England didn't go along with the Spanish countries in France and so on. They were mostly Catholic. So they said the religion of the Protestants and liber par, the freedom granted by Parliament. So they used it to give political messages. Here's a Cromwell gold crown. One of our clients owns this one. It is the best known in the world. This again, King Charles I was beaten in battle and beheaded by Oliver Cromwell, and he became the ruler of England. But he couldn't call himself the king because he didn't have royal blood, so he made up his own title. He was the Lord High Protector of England, and he made the first gold crown. So a gold crown is a huge coin. If you think about it, silver coins tend to be larger than gold coins because silver's cheaper. So the die for most coins, 1 ounce coins, is going to be a smaller die. So he had the idea, I want to make a big coin to show how tough I am. And so he took a silver die. The largest silver coin of any country is called the crown. And matter of fact, in Europe, they would call the US silver dollar the American crown. So he took this larger die and he put gold in it, and it made it about 1.5 ounces. So that was a huge, huge coin. And again, most of the ones that survived are in museums, but we were able to obtain the best one in the world for one of our clients, and it's already tripled in value since he got it. So he's pretty happy. Okay, I mentioned this earlier, the U.S. is founded on gold. Read the Constitution. If you go to conservativetruth.org, we have all the founding documents there, making them readily available for people. So including, commentary on current events, we have all the founding stuff. So it's a searchable document. Open up the Constitution and search for anything that you can think of that has to do with money or wealth or whatever. Currency, money, coin, gold, silver, debt, contract, or anything like that. And you come away with only one conclusion, that the United States was founded on gold. That gold, primarily and secondarily silver, were the only constitutional money that our founders envisioned. Here's the first U.S. coin. It's made in 1795. Well, why wasn't it made in 1776? Well, we were a little busy, fighting a war, trying to stay alive. And So we were governed under something called the Articles of Confederation back then, and it wasn't until 12 years later that we got the Constitution, and then we had the time to do things like setting up a mint. So this is a capped liberty, it's called, because it's wearing a sort of hat. And make a guess at what it sells for.
How much?
22 million.
Wow.
I don't have one of these. But, you know, it's a very rare coin. Okay, the 49ers. These are not the greatest pictures in the world, but, you know, it just gives you an idea of what was going on back then. These were tough old birds that came from all over the country for the California gold rush, which was in 49, so that's why they call them the 49ers. They panned for gold. You see the pan up there. And they took it down to the assay, bottom left, and you would see how pure it was, and they make it into bars and so on. That was what caused California to be so prosperous. It's still like the 5th largest economy in the world today as a state. Okay, the U.S. is the 1st largest economy, but California is bigger than most countries in the world. Here was a coin made to commemorate it. Bet you never knew we had a $2.50 coin, did you?
I did not know that.
But, yep, in 1848 they made a $2.50 coin, and there were also
the expression, "Where's a
$3
$3 bill?" But I didn't know about the $2.50.
Well, they actually made $3 bills at one point, but very few. And there were $3 gold coins. There was also a $1 gold coin. Never made a $2, but they made the 2.5. This made more sense because you had your 20, which is a double liberty. You had your $10 coin, which is a liberty. You had your half liberty, which is a $5 coin, about a quarter of an ounce. And then this is a half of a half liberty, of a quarter liberty, so the 8th liberty. Anyway, those denominations make more sense than the $3 one. The world's most valuable coin, period, is the 1849 silver dollar. It's gold, 1 ounce gold coin. Interesting story there. They only made 2 of them because they had to get it approved by the president and everything. So this was like a pattern coin. But you'd think with only 2 that they'd be pretty careful with those 2 coins. Well, somehow, some way, some idiot along the way managed to lose one of the coins. So now there's only the one that's in existence. Okay, famous shipwrecks. This is a great photo. Look at all that gold just sitting there on the floor of the ocean. Because if you look up at the top, that's the wood part of the ship. It's rotted. Off to the bottom right, it's rotten wood as well. Left, center, and down, that's wood. And there's a lot of sand in it that's washed in. But you can see the coins, just like tons of them. There were literally tons and tons of gold shipped in ships that eventually ended up sinking. I think that after a while they figured out that if you put too much gold in a ship, it's probably going to sink because it's too heavy. But there's one ship, it's called the Ship of Gold. The official name was the SS Central America. It was a side wheel steamer, okay? They had these side wheel, like paddle wheels, and it moved back and forth between Central America and the east coast of the U.S. in the 1850s. It sank in a hurricane in September of 1857, and 425 of the 578 passengers and crew died. And 30,000 pounds, not ounces, 30,000 pounds of gold went to the bottom of the ocean. They've recovered most of it, but at the time it was such a big deal that it contributed to the panic of 1857, which was not as severe as the panic in 1929. They caused the Depression, but it was a very dark period also in our economy. So here's a picture of the SS Central America, and that's an actual old photo in the bottom right. That's an artist's depiction of it sinking, because they didn't happen to have anybody with the camera and another ship right beside it when it sank. We've all heard of the Atocha. Bottom picture there is beautiful, I think. You can see the diver with this searchlight in the middle of the picture. Mel Fisher spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars searching for this ship, following up old records and trying to figure out where the thing was. If you ever get to Key West, Florida, go to the museum. It's really, really interesting. But up at the top right, you see gold. You see the guy's handling it with a white glove that came out of the Atocha. That's the way it looked when it came out. Beautiful, bright, shiny. Now, if you look on the left, what's that big old black thing? Is that coal? No, actually, that's a silver bar.
Is it really?
All right. Yeah, silver bar that hasn't been cleaned. That's just all the tarnish and so on that's risen up. One of the things notable, if you look on the gold bar on the right, you see the stamps on it. That's called hallmarking. And we still do the same thing today, only the bars are more uniform than that, and the hallmarks are a lot neater. But most things that have to do with gold are very traditional and stayed the same. This is the last U.S. gold coin ever made. See, it says 1933. It was never released. Remember, I've told you about the trader, FDR, that lived in the White House? When he became president, the first thing he did was confiscate all the gold in the country. The only thing he didn't confiscate was rare coins and jewelry. And I think he also exempted dental gold. Dentists were allowed to have a small amount of gold for fillings. But one of the officers at a mint stole 10 of the coins, and the story goes that he replaced them with 10 other coins, figuring no one would notice the date, because all they did was melt them down at FDR's order. So the FBI searched for these for decades and decades. And the last one was finally discovered, not discovered, but a Saudi Arabian prince had it. And he paid like $7.5 million for it. The very first U.S. coin, the one I showed you, was for $25 million. So the first and last of any series are, serious coins. Okay, gold and central banks. Central banks, like I say, they have to hold gold. These people that say, well, silver's more valuable than gold, silver's more rare than gold. So ridiculous. I mean, there's 70 times as much silver as there is gold. And if it really was rare or valuable to the extent that gold was, central banks would also have gold in the reserve, or silver in the reserves. But they don't. They only have silver. But here's a really, really dumb one. In 1825, Gordon Brown, who was the Chancellor of the Exchequer in London, that would be like Secretary of the Treasury here, he decided that gold was old-fashioned and it took up too much space. So he convinced the government to sell off all their gold at, you ready for this? $250 an ounce.
Wow.
This is in 1825, $250 an ounce.
Yeah.
Yeah. And today, that gold is worth like $1,700 an ounce.
What's $250 in that money worth today?
Well, I'd have to check it out.
2,500, or is it 2.5 million, or?
Well,
probably closer to 2,500. That would be a factor of 10 versus a factor of 100.
Yeah, it would be more than that, because just since 1933, the dollar has lost 96% of its value. So in other words, it's a factor of 25, and this is back over 100 years more than that. So you're right in the first place. I think it's probably 100 times.
Wow.
You know.
Wow.
So $250 is probably worth about 25. I'll have to check that out. But anyway, here's the really ironic part. Later on, England elected him as prime minister. He made the biggest blunder in British history in selling off all their gold and losing them billions and billions of dollars. And so as a reward, they made him prime minister. Guy's name is Gordon Brown. So gold is the only true money. It does not deflate in value. Matter of fact, as the dollar goes down, red arrow, gold goes up. It's a direct inverse relationship. So that's why gold is the only thing that will protect you from what I call the insidious inflation we have now and the runaway hyperinflation that we're going to have when the dollar is going to become worth absolutely nothing. These days, nobody owns real money anymore. Only 1% of people worldwide own physical gold. And as of the last of 2019, only 2% of Americans own physical gold. So we're somewhat smarter than the rest of the world. But suddenly, since the China virus came upon us, 12% of Americans, just a matter of months, the number of Americans that own gold has increased by 600%. What did they know? Okay, particularly the very rich people. I know I have billionaires and millionaires, only 2 billionaires, but quite a number of millionaires in my client base. And for the last year and a half, they've been buying gold and they've been taking it out of the stock market. So that was my first signal. And then of course the charts, look very similar to the other major crashes in the stock market. But the fact that some of the smartest people in the world were pulling their money out of the stock market, putting in gold, should tell you something. So now we're faced with a severe shortage of gold. I kid you not. I've had a number of dealers that are totally out of gold call me up because they know I've got gold and try to buy gold from me. I said, no, my gold's for my customers. Well, we'll pay retail. I said, how can you pay retail? I said, we'll just charge more on top of it. That didn't surprise me because there are hundreds, probably thousands of dealers that are out of gold. I think I showed a slide a couple of weeks ago about, the desperation that the gold dealers say there's no gold. But listen to this, Dwayne. It's the first time I've told anybody about this because it just happened 2 hours ago. I had my wholesaler call up and ask me if I would sell him back some of the gold that he sold me at $2,000 just a few weeks ago, and he offered me a 10% profit, $2,200. The wholesaler,
Gotcha.
he can't get it. So it was a certain type of gold that's in particularly short supply, but it's very interesting out there. We're going to see probably that number of Americans that own gold go from 12% to probably 40 or 50%. Anybody that's smart right now is getting gold. And yes, I did say that, and I don't mean to be insulting, but
well, I mean the onslaught of commercials, especially if you watch. Well, depends upon which news channel you watch. I know the one that my household watches. Seems like every other commercial. It's either some kind of drug that that the disclaimer is longer than like this drug will make you feel better, and then they spend 30 seconds telling you how all your body parts may fall off if you take the drug.
But it may kill you, right?
Yeah, so it's one of those, and then buy gold, buy silver. Then it's reverse mortgage your home, and then we're back to another drug ad, back to buy gold and silver, back to reverse mortgage your home.
The people that sell mac and cheese can't afford the advertising time. Oh yeah, My Pillow, of course, he's out there.
He said he was going to come on the show. We invited him. He was going to come on, and he apologized. His schedule got busy, but he said, I really want to come on. So I know Valerie's in the background trying to make that happen.
Well, my friend Pastor Greg,
I do. I do.
He just had him on recently, so he seems to be accessible. He likes Christian shows because
no, he was
he's a
happy.
Christian.
He didn't fight at all. He said, "Sure, I'll come on."
So this 12%, I think, is going to go to 40 to 50%, because anybody's got any knowledge of what's going on is got to realize the dollar's going to even fall farther and probably go to nothing. So gold will be the only way to save it. I won't go too much into this, but the gold demand in just two countries, China and India, is about 50% of the world demand. We're only 9%, and that's North America. That includes Mexico, us, and Canada. But China is the real danger, because they're pushing for a gold-backed currency, a world gold currency. And they've been buying tons and tons of gold, most of it under the radar. They haven't been reporting it to the IMF like they're supposed to. And so if they beat us to that, if they go to a gold-backed currency before we do, they become the big dog worldwide, and our standard of living drops by 50%. So I think we're going to have to go on a gold standard. And if you do the math on it, we've only got enough gold to back 4% of all the trillions of dollars. We call it printed, but only 6% of the money is printed these days. Most of it's created by computer nerds, right, in digital form.
Sure.
But if you look at all the dollars we've printed and the amount of gold we have, at today's gold prices, we can't come anywhere close to covering it. So I calculate about $42,500 an ounce gold in order to allow us to go on a gold standard again. And I've seen other estimates of anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 an ounce. So buy gold. Finally, this is an old chart. I actually pulled it in 2014, but it shows the national debt in 2013. And at that time, I told people in 2014, I said, we're going to see the national debt far greater than the total national net worth. And at this point, the government, based on Obama's budget, the trillions and trillions of dollars he was spending every year, they were saying by 2024, we were going to hit 25 trillion in debt. And I remember people typing in the text box, oh, that's never going to happen, 25 trillion, that's ridiculous. Well, here we are in 2020, and it's 25.5 trillion. So I want to find those people and say, I told you so, but it's even worse than even I imagined. Okay. Let me just wrap this up. Is this what the U.S. dollar is going to look like? Are we going to go through the same thing Zimbabwe did, creating bigger and bigger and bigger bills? When they started in 2000, it was $1.25 Zimbabwe to $1 U.S., and their biggest bill was a $100 bill, just like the biggest bill we have in circulation today is $100. We've had $1,000 bills and $5,000 bills and $10,000 bills.
Wasn't there a $500 bill at one point?
Yes, there was. And actually, the $500 and the $1,000 bill were lightly circulated. There were wealthy people that actually held some of those, but the $5,000, $10,000 bills have always been used just to transfer money between banks. Now they do it by wire, so we don't need it. But the point is, their biggest bill was a $100 bill, like ours is today, and they started printing $1,000 and $10,000 and $100,000 and then million. And
just add 12 zeros.
Yep, and it got up to the largest bank note in the history of the world, $100 trillion. Are we going to go that route? Are we going to just keep printing more and more and higher amounts of money to make it appear that our money's still worth something? Or are we just going to be honest, like we were back at the beginning of our country, and we just trashed our first currency and gave people real gold-backed currency? Because our first currency was like the Federal Reserve note. backed by nothing. I don't know, but I believe we're going to be back on a gold standard, or that people are going to throw all the bums out in Washington and hire politicians who will make it thus. One last little thing. Gold is a great gift. Jewish people have a tradition of giving a small gold coin to newborn babies and so on. But if you give gold, like I always around Christmas time, I encourage people, get gold and give it to your kids. It teaches the importance of saving. It shows them the value of real money, and they learn vital investment lessons from it. But it's also a great way of passing on your values to your children and your grandchildren. So just to mention a couple of the near bullion coins, we have a good stock of bullion coins, both silver and gold, junk silver, mostly dimes and quarters, because when the dollar crashes, you don't want to be carrying around a silver dollar that's going to go to $500 in purchasing power. Mm-hmm. Somebody will knock you over the head for that. Yeah. Dimes and quarters. For a dime, a couple can buy their groceries for a week. For a quarter, a family with a lot of kids can buy their groceries for a week. Gold will go to $20,000 an ounce. That's why the financial planning organizations have recommended for years that you have at least 10% of your assets in precious metals, because when all the paper assets evaporate, gold is going to go 10 times the value, and you'll have your net worth back. So the best way to buy gold bullion, in my opinion, is what's called near bullion. It's coins where probably 80% of the value is in the metal, but it does have some rarity. So it's not going to just go up as inflation goes up. In other words, with bullion, pure bullion, you don't make any money, but you're actually going to make some money on this. Not as much as some of the rare coins I showed you. But also, hey, what if I'm wrong? What if all the experts that are saying that the dollar's going to crash are wrong? Or what if we're just early? What if it takes 5 years and we limp along under the current state of inflation? It goes down to, from 4 cents, the dollar being worth 4 cents, down to 2 cents, insidious slow inflation. Well, at least with these kind of coins, you will have made some money. With the rare coins, you'll be very, very wealthy. Here's another one that's the largest gold coin made for regular circulation in the world. That's the English coin. It's an ounce and a third, huge coin. And then finally, some of the U.S. coins, they're not rare. They made millions of them, but they're scarce because they're pre-1933. Mm-hmm. This is in 1908 that I have in stock. These are great choices too. But whatever kind of gold you want, we've got. And whether you get it from us or if you can find a dealer where you are that has some, get gold. At all hazards, like the king said, get gold. Don't buy it off the internet. There's been so many rip-offs, so many scams. At least 5 major bullion companies that have gone bankrupt, and I don't really think they went bankrupt at all. I think they just took off with the money and said we're bankrupt. But only buy from somebody you can trust, okay?
Well said.
And that's it.
Dr. Tom, tell them where to go.
Let me give my telephone number, 561-753-5998, 561-753-5998. If you're in a hurry to get information, just give me a call, and make sure you mention that you came from CFRN, because we like to help support the ministry of CFRN. And otherwise, you can go on the internet to CFRNgold.com, CFRNgold.com. Fill out the little form there, and we will email you a lot of valuable information, videos, articles, reports, and so on, that'll show you how you can buy gold, profit from it, buy the best types of gold, and not get ripped off in the process. Okay?
That's a win-win. Thanks, Dr. Tom.
Okay,
Always
thank you, sir. Good talking with you all. God bless.
Talk to you soon. All right. Put the chart back up. S&P. pulling back. Remember I said earlier, I told you guys before the market opened, and then I told you in the room this morning that this area would be a significant area for resistance, and so here we are running into the resistance. Some of you I even told last night, but anyway, so we've already covered this by 30.42, and we ran up past 30.62. So, 20 points, $50 a point, $1,000 per contract traded. On the Dow, the alert last night was, stand by. The alert last night on the Dow was to be long 25605. 25605. And we ran up to 25,780. $5 a point. On the Russell, long above 47, which is right here, ran up to 52, back below 47, back to 52, back below 47, back to 52. Short side on the Russell's 14.14. We haven't got down there yet. Don't suspect we will in this session, but anything's possible. NQ, the alert last night for the NQ was to be long 95.15. 95.15. And the swing high has been 95.65. So that's 50 points at $20 a point. That's $1,000 per contract traded. Crude, last night's alert was to be long 33.20. We've seen 33. We've seen 34.20. That's $1,000 per contract move from the alert price at 33.20 to the swing high at 34.20. A $1 move in crude is worth $1,000 to the trader. And last but not least, gold. Last night's alert said to sell gold at 17.13, and we haven't gotten there yet. And we were looking to be long 17.36, and we printed 43. So that's $700 per contract traded. So there you have it. Those are the Concierge Trade Alerts. If you want a screenshot, if you didn't grab a screenshot earlier, there you go. Now we have two types of alerts. The Concierge Trade Alerts are based on previous price action. The Logic 247 alerts are based on current price action. And when the past and the present point at the same important price, important area, that's usually a big deal. Okay? The Logic alerts look like this. We are in week 95. Last week, week 94. We had 66 actionable alerts, 14% were stopped out. This week, week 95, we start Sunday night, 6 p.m. Eastern. That's Pacific time on the screen. S&P, long, 29.55. Thumbs up means we reached the target. Z's means never triggered. And a red X means it got stopped out. Now, if you're trying to learn how to trade, and if things aren't going the way you plan, would it benefit you to have these real-time examples to work off of? Like, psst, hey, come here, check this out. You might want to consider selling here or buying here with a target here and a target here and a final trade to target here. I mean, do you think that would help your results? I don't know. I don't know if it would or not. How many times have you been stopped out this week? I don't know. And we still got a day and a half left. Okay. All right, good word for the day. When despair is in the air, don't give in. James 1:2 says, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. Huh? When troubles come my way, I should consider that an opportunity to be happy? When difficulties come to us in life, and in our relationships, as they inevitably will, it's easy to succumb to the dominoes of despair. First, we become disappointed with an event or relationship. Then as the trial lingers, we topple into discouragement and surrender our expectations that things will change. Finally, as we feel the impossibility of moving the object against which we lean, we succumb to that last domino of despair. We feel powerless and hopeless and don't know how to see our way clear. Instead of running our life's race, it feels more like we're swimming below the surface in an ocean of jelly. Often when we can't understand life's circumstances, we limit our expectations of who God is and what He can do. We think there's only one good outcome, the one we want. Instead, we need to trust God, because He just might have bigger, even better things in mind. We must try to see Him at work in whatever trials come our way. God, what are you trying to teach me? Please help me understand it, because I don't want to repeat this class again. God's expectations are bigger than our own, and only God and His purposes, no matter how painful they seem at the moment, truly satisfies our soul. James writes in James 1:2 through 4, Dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy, for you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. Keep that truth uppermost in your mind today, and you won't give in to despair. And that's our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.